Is it 4 o'clock already? Thank goodness. We are here live in the Nutmeg Tavern. It's been a rough 15 minutes just getting ready for this show. And thank goodness it started. Welcome to the Nutmeg Tavern. Come on in, have a seat. Dude. Have a seat and join us as we enjoy the next hour. I am your host, John Townsend, and I'm here to talk about stuff and answer questions. I'm joined behind the bar with the guy with the funny glasses on. Ryan is behind the bar.
Hello.
And he's enjoying, I don't know what he's enjoying, but
gin.
He's enjoying that back there. On the other side of the time warp continuum, Aaron is on the console. Thank goodness he's back, because last week it was bad.
Listen,
I popped in for a few minutes
playing
and
the
he
hand
was
I'm dealt,
so mean
okay?
to Ryan.
Wasn't your fault.
Playing the hand I'm dealt.
I'm just saying the computer was being bad and we didn't have the normal person to whip it into shape.
I'll leave it at this. It worked fine for me. Anyway, Kyle is
Kyle is in the question seat. He's in the hot seat.
I'm being buried by questions.
He's being buried by questions, which is a great and wonderful thing.
This is going to be a rowdy stream.
It's going to be a rowdy stream.
Well, we have reason for celebration.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
What are we celebrating? Oh, this.
To your right.
I forgot. I am joined in the guest seat over here by the giant golden plaque.
Yeah. Can you hold the silver one next to it for size comparison?
So there's the
Look at this.
silver one, and then the gold one.
Silver one was for 100,000.
Right, silver 100,000, and
the diamond one takes up.
I don't want to
the whole
knock
back
this
wall.
over, so I'm going to set this down now. But you can see it's obviously different. And
Get that one out of here.
no, it's
Whoa,
good.
no,
I like
no,
it.
no, no, no.
I'm not
joking.
going to complain about this one ever.
We love it.
Thank you, YouTube,
But
and everyone.
if everybody could direct their eyes back towards the bar.
The nutmeg button is back there. Ryan has confiscated it for this particular live stream.
See its beauty.
They wouldn't let me have it anymore. Personally, that's the one I am most proud of.
Do you see how it glistens in the candlelight?
Okay. What's next? Were we going to say something else?
Kyle said he was being buried by questions.
Yeah.
Somebody said in the super chat before we even opened up.
Yes.
This is a crazy stream
Yeah,
so far.
it's crazy here and apparently crazy out there. Whew. I'm ready, Kyle.
All right, here we go. Would weather changes affect what was cooked or produced? As in, can't make butter today, it's gonna rain.
Yes. I'm trying to think of a particular food or a particular instance. I know there's one like on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it at the moment. So, really good question. But there are certainly weather-related food things. Certainly, certain things you cannot make when it's especially too hot. Some good example would be certain kinds of beer. They would even, like households that would brew beer, like a larger household or manor that would have lots of people and they would be brewing beer throughout the year. Summer months, they just wouldn't do it. Just like, forget it. You're not going to produce beer that's worth drinking. Don't even bother to do it. So that's certainly some kinds of that certain situation.
This is the week to stump John if that's the goal, because he's working
No.
on been building logs. We're building a cabin all week long, and
Yeah,
so
it's been a trying
it's been a
week.
week.
Yeah, it's been.
We're getting it done, though.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Let's see. This one says, "What did the crew think of the cornbread? Some of us had mixed results. I thought it was delicious."
It was good cornbread.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more dense, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
than
Yes.
because we were making a trail cornbread, not like a kitchen cornbread.
Well, and even, most of the cornbreads in the time period were not a leavened
Right.
fluffy,
It's
wonderful.
not what we're used to today, and that's the special part about it.
And there
But-
were people that were commenting about it being coarse texture.
Yeah, right.
And remember that a lot of the cornmeal in the time period was not ground in a grist mill. Could have been, but a lot of time it was pounded out in a mortar, and you get a very coarse meal when you use that.
Unless you want a mortar for days.
Yeah, it's
If you've
just,
not used a mortar and pestle much, then it's
Yeah.
probably hard to understand, but it kind of stinks.
All I know is that it was super filling because I only had like a piece and a half, and I didn't have to eat for the rest of the day. So
Oh, and I guess should we dress the young lady on set for that?
That's
you
on
can
you.
address
That's up to
that.
you.
Yeah, go
You can
ahead.
address that.
So that's actually my son, Reese. He's got long hair, and
Very
he's
white
only,
hair.
He's only 12 years old, so
He's
yeah.
12 years old and his hair is as blonde as
Yeah.
it's beyond blonde.
the
It's-
ghost
Yeah.
that was floating in the
Yes,
cabin
yes.
is my son.
He's
And John didn't know he was there, so I gave him half of my cornbread. He did get something to eat.
he just didn't step up to
Nope.
the and
Yeah.
get the.
Yep. But
Yep.
we addressed it. He ate.
I didn't starve him.
But anyway,
At least
that
not on
cornbread
purpose.
was like that's the perfect cornbread to have in broth or something like that. It would be awesome.
It was good.
it was good. Where did sailors in the 1700s keep their stockfish cool?
Stockfish does the great thing about stockfish is, well, since it's already pretty much rotten, you can't get it any. I mean, it's hard to mess up. Really, all you need to do is keep it somewhat dry. It doesn't need to really stay cool whatsoever. That's. I mean, it's so dried hard and nasty in its uncooked state that it's pretty easy to store.
How did they harvest foods like apples for the winter?
Well, it probably means how do you store it, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
and
that's what
apples, you would store. You want to keep them apart from each other and kind of let them dry out. Definitely going through the stock of it, looking for anything that's rotten, because that whole idea of one rotten apple spoiling a barrel, well, that definitely is one of the issues you have with fruits like apples. They're all together, and they can, once one starts to go south on you, it'll take the rest of it with it. So definitely an issue. And I can't remember whether apples were one of those things that they put into something like sawdust or not. I don't think so. I'm not. I wish I could answer it better than that.
What did permanent village buildings look like in the 18th century? Taverns, butchers, etc. Love the channel, by the way.
Yeah, if they're along the East Coast or in civilized areas, they're going to be creating those out of standard post and beam techniques with sawn planks and timbers and siding. So they're looking a lot like what we consider a classic colonial style house. Not terribly different. If they're back into the frontier, they may be a log structure, like something we're making now, or a hewn log structure. And you'll read about many times something like, oh, they set up a tavern and it was in, XYZ log home. So a larger log structure that is used as a tavern or an inn. But most of those other structures that were in town, hey, they're sawing out beams and planks to build them out of.
A lot of acidic juices are used in the preservation recipes. Where did they come from? And was it easy to get a lot of vinegar or lemon juice all year round?
You would make your own vinegar, and you would use something. Well, I was reading in Nolan's memoir just the last couple of days, and he was talking about harvesting maple syrup. They're in the pretty much the deep frontier area at that time. They're harvesting maple syrup for sweet, as he calls it, or sugar, as well as making their own vinegar. So vinegar is sort of like, you're brewing something and you let it go bad. You let it go beyond alcohol into this yucky vinegar stuff some people like. Not me. But you would make your own vinegar, or you might purchase it, but it's made in that similar brewing technique where you're going beyond whatever is like the good wine into a vinegar sort of situation.
I have a couple donations I want to do.
Go ahead, Aaron.
So thanks everyone for donating. Really appreciate it. This is from David Dinelli. Thank you.
Thank you.
While reading some records from 17th century New Haven, Connecticut, I noticed that it was required to keep and maintain a gun, powder, and lead or be fined. How widespread was this, and how long did these practices continue in the colonies?
I don't know about how long they continued, but there's certainly a quantity of issue where people have to be prepared either in a constabulary situation. Oh, I have to be available to my local government as a person who will be a temporary policeman, or in a militia sort of situation where it's like, oh, I need to worry about other countries attacking, or Native Americans coming from a long distance away and attacking an area which was sort of up and down all through the 18th century. So local governments would prescribe and tell their citizenry, the head of the household or whatever, you have to be able to defend yourself or defend the community. And it depends on totally where they're at and if those sort of situations come up very often. And in some locations, not really an issue, and they wouldn't have those sort of local regulations. And in other places, happens all the time. So they definitely make that a sort of law for that community.
This is from Speed and Style Tony. Says, nice hat. You look like a period parson. Thank you. This one says, did the colonists get many recipes from the Indians? And then Tyson Q says, you guys help me appreciate everyday conveniences and have brought more gratitude to my life. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's all I got right now.
Okay.
Thanks.
So
hold on one second. I'm just making sure that if the stream was lagging for people, just go ahead and hit refresh.
Yeah.
But looking good.
Good.
Yeah.
That one question about did they get many recipes from the Native Americans? And not necessarily recipes per se, but let's say cooking techniques and the finished product. That they were getting to a great extent. The idea of what do we do? Here we are in North America. We have available to us this Indian corn, or corn as we would call it today, maize. How do we prepare this? There's nothing quite like that in the English context, and so they have to learn about the best way to prepare that from the Native Americans, and so they learn about a whole bunch of different techniques to sort of fix that. We're going to be covering another one of those on Monday, where we talk about, there was at least one particular reference where it talked about the Native Americans having 12 different ways that they would fix corn, and we cover another one of those ways. That is one of those, this is how we learn how to use these products, because they just were not familiar with it.
Yeah, sorry if it's still lagging out. Maybe just refresh your browser for people who are struggling with that. But yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. That's weird.
We do have a significant storm going on outside, probably. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Does it look good from the
interface? It's going.
Side?
It just sometimes it'll like not lag out via. I think it's on YouTube's end.
It's all YouTube's fault.
Yeah, always.
It could never be.
Oh no, thank you, YouTube. I love you.
As John polishes the new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, refresh worked for me.
Did you finish up on the super chat comments and questions?
I think so.
Okay, you had a couple of Patreon people, right?
You got a couple of Patreon questions over there?
I was just about to read some.
Excellent.
This one's from Power Fantastic. Was it more common to barter goods and services than purchasing with standard currency?
There was a great dearth of hard currency coinage money that was circulating in the colonies, and even to a certain extent small coins in Great Britain itself in the time period. So there's a lot of transactions that are going on, either written, kind of a tab situation where you're dealing with a store and you have an account, and you bring goods in, you take goods away, and they keep track of that. And that's one of the ways they dealt with that. And that's a kind of bartering. And then you obviously do bring goods in. So it's bartering, but it's bartering to pluses and minuses to your account. So you don't have to worry about having something that would be an exchange at that moment. I've got 12 gallons of maple syrup. What am I going to trade that for? You don't do that. You'd say, 12 gallons of maple syrup, I'm paying, $3 silver dollars a gallon or whatever it is. And then you would put that onto the account and take things away during the year. So there's certainly a quantity of that happening.
This one's from Philip Esteban. Can you cover more about selecting clothing, sizing, and style? Looking at your online catalog can be overwhelming.
Yes.
Also, are you familiar with the Battle of Brandywine in PA? A reenactor told us that there were 1,000 soldiers on the field last year.
Yeah, I've heard of the Brandywine event. I have not gone to it personally. It would be, it sounds like a lot of fun.
It's got a really great reputation, I will say that.
Right. The other part of the question can be very difficult to cover unless there's a very specific piece of content or a year or a person. That's why we put together, at least in the print catalog, the front section that has the personas sort of set down. It is not a prescribed, this is the only way it was. It's just to give people an idea of, a 1770s farmer is going to be wearing this piece, that piece, that piece, that piece. That's hard to translate onto the website. Or even into a video. I guess we tried to do it a little bit way back in the day. But yeah, I'll see what we can do to cover more of that kind of thing, because it is very difficult. The catalog is very a la carte, especially the website. Good luck, guys. Here's a bunch of stuff. How do you put together an outfit? Not as easy. So
yeah, customer service is really helpful with that kind of thing. If you have time to send an email or a phone call, they can kind of step through that with you and say, oh, no, that's not appropriate for that year, but this is appropriate, and kind of fill in the blanks there.
This one's from Bill Dreschke. What are the plans for the log cabin? Will it become the new kitchen for the videos? Since you mentioned the current kitchen is not well ventilated or insulated.
It's actually not bad insulation-wise, but it always is tricky to keep it not filled with smoke, like every kitchen in the 18th century, apparently.
I'm sure we'll have the same problems.
Yeah, and then we'll probably fill the cabin with smoke, too. But there's certainly a plan to use the cabin interior, although it's much more of a challenge, to use for cooking episodes as well as other sorts of episodes. The cabin is a dual-purpose thing. How do we make this a series of videos of what a cabin was like and how they build it? And we're learning more and more every minute we're out there, as well as how do we use this when it's done? And we've got lots of great fun planned for that.
It's going awesome. It's looking pretty impressive right now. It's going
to be a great set, but aside from that, most of us that are working on it have wanted to build a cabin for a long time. Yeah. Like my in a more modern sense, but my dad, the whole time I was a teenager, talked about building a cabin, and I thought that that's something that we didn't get to do, but it's something I've always wanted to do. So now John's wanted to for years. Yeah.
And it's going to be great when everything's said and done. Just
even
like a
today,
backdrop location. I mean, it looks awesome.
Even today, I was looking a little bit of the footage from the very beginning.
Yeah,
it's already changed so much.
Yeah,
it's just weird to watch the beginning of that. It's like, wow, that it's so different.
And it doesn't feel like it when you're working on it because it's just one log at a time.
Yeah,
but it is. I'm 6'4", and it's taller than me on most of its sides now. So it's coming along.
Yeah.
Give me one more of those, and then I want to cover these other things.
This one's from Jay Malone. What did people who lived in colonial America do for entertainment? Was theater something that was attended in the colonies, or was it more of a thing done in England?
Yeah, so entertainment, obviously there's a quantity of plays and that theater sort of entertainment. Most of that is happening in a very, very kind of civilized areas in that time period, Philadelphia or in, Williamsburg. Not a lot as it moves out or in kind of the outer areas. Really, the great majority of that is happening in England in the time period, or obviously in other parts of Europe, that's much more popular. The standard entertainment is going to be things like dances, country dances, etc., that you can have just about anywhere, as long as you've got a couple of musicians, like Rick and Hillary. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, there was more lag.
We're lagging. Lag city.
Just hit Control R on your browser and you should be good. That's what everyone's saying. Sorry about that, everyone.
This week, it's been a week for really interesting letters came in the mail. Here's one. It was all folded up. Let me see if I can get it back into it. If you watch the letter writing and sealing and folding episode, someone sent me this. This one is, I think it's Satu Pecos, and he wrote this wonderful letter. I think he talks about, he's 12. He was writing about watching the videos on the letter writing and enjoying that. There was also this wonderful letter from, who was it? Well, let me read to you the very first part. Dear Mr. Townsend, I bid you a warm greeting from the mountains of North Carolina. Tales of your adventures into the art of cookery have reached my manor, and I must inform you that it has created quite a stir. Get it, Esther. Why, it was only this past Tuesday that I overheard my cook and kitchen maid discussing the particulars of your mushroom ketchup recipe. I can only imagine what must be entailed on such an endeavor. And it goes on to talk about mushroom ketchup and a different kind of recipe. This one's regards, Ethel Mosley, of Dogwood Manor. It's wonderful on hand done paper, and the writing is so fun. It's great to see people grab onto this idea and take it and run with it. My only fear is that other people want to write me things, and you have to understand I can only interact and answer back so many wonderful letters. But thank you, both of you guys, for sending those letters in. It's really nice to watch people engage with the content like that. And writing is one of those ways that is easiest for people to do that kind of reenacting kind of, on your own. You don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need, costumes or a historic site to do it. You can do it right there at home and interact in. Nobody does that anymore, right? How many people write letters to other people today? Yeah. Have you written a personal letter to anyone recently?
I write them to my wife. We have 4 kids, so it's hard to find the time, but we like to write each other letters.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I don't send them in the post to people, that's for sure. And also on that note, the writing videos, man, thank you guys so much for all the support and for the views on those. That was kind of something, it was new. And we haven't tried that before.
Right.
And they've done really well, so thank you for that.
And a super special thanks to Brian Allison to deliver all that content. He was so sick, we forced him. He did look like some kind of vampire person.
About it too. It was just like,
yeah, he was all pale and everything.
I'm whiny when I'm sick. He didn't whine once. Nope. So earlier in the chat and just here recently, I've seen a few people. Okay, we're at 1 million subs. Do we have favorites and least favorite videos? That'd be fun to talk about.
Favorite and least favorite videos.
I'd say you can even change that question to just videos that you particularly liked or particularly were bored with or something like that.
Well, we talked about it in the past. I think obviously when we were doing funny videos, and at the very end of when we were doing funny videos, because we really polished the concept as we went through time. And I think one of my most favorites is the Slightly Green sale, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was a blast. To edit, to shoot, all that.
The Slightly Green sale was really neat. Zombie was fun. I think Slightly Green was more fun.
Zombie felt like we had finally mastered, okay, it was like what we want. It ended up being what we got.
Right.
We were finally there.
It wasn't the right thing, but
No, but
yeah. But we were able to achieve what we set out to do.
Yep.
So many things you're like, okay, I've got this in my mind's eye. Can I make it happen? Yes, we were able to make that happen in Zombie to a very great extent, and it was a lot of fun to make the credit sequence that's done in 16 millimeter.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
that was really cool.
Yeah.
Least favorite? You guys got any ideas for least favorite?
Least favorite? I don't know. I'm sure my least favorite is one that I can't even remember.
Yeah, we
because
blotted it out of our memory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are some cooking ones that are kind of like, yeah, that was
Yeah,
all right.
but not least favorite. Like I hated this, the doing the shooting or anything.
I think that towards the end of the Q&A videos, that was starting to feel like, oh, we've got to figure out
like a
how to
chore.
do this. So we got and that's what turned into the Nutmeg Tavern eventually. Yes. And so I think that whenever it gets to a place where like, oh, we're tired of doing this, we figure out a way to
reinvent
it fun again.
Yeah, I think definitely my favorite. I still think it's the dugout canoe stuff. That was fun to shoot.
Yes.
It was fun to edit.
Yes.
It just was like it was like a cool time of the year. Everything looked cool. That was just a really good time. I felt like that was a lot of fun, and it turned out. It just turned out like exactly how we wanted it to.
Right. And even ones where the shooting is difficult, the Dan Wowak videos.
Those were a lot of fun to do.
But they were still fun to do. I mean, it was cold, it was wet.
Muddy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, my feet were damp.
We had the perfect guest to put through that stuff.
Yeah, he was fine.
He thrives in that environment.
Right. So. It's raining, cold rain. It's like whatever, let's do this thing.
I really like the videos where we get to sit down and talk with people for a longer time. I don't know that we figured out the best way to do them for YouTube yet, but I really like those interactions with the people. That's a lot of fun.
I think the only way to make them work for YouTube is to come up with some kind of very clickbaity title, And you won't believe the third way, but we don't want to do that. So,
I think now that I'm thinking of it, I think my least favorite videos were the ones that we did early on, the instructional ones where we just like set up in front of that old gray wall.
Yeah.
Just like show them how to do this thing. Those were not very fun to shoot or edit. But they were, I think our customers liked them because they, like the Inkaloom one, that one was bad. That was not a fun
But
shoot.
it's still a very popular and helpful video to lots of people.
Coming from the view of the person who watched the YouTube channel and now I work here, I enjoyed the ones that had more story to them and not just the quick, like, this is how you do this and then bye type of.
Oh, more like historical context.
Yeah. Something I could chew on for a bit.
Like the Pawpaw video.
Yeah.
Get it? Chew.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Pawpaw video.
We
weren't sure on that
I know the Pawpaws.
Yeah.
How many people in the chat have eaten Pawpaws? I'm interested in that.
Right. And
Indiana banana.
Did anybody else even try it? You tried it, didn't you?
Not this time around. I've eaten plenty of Pawpaws.
Okay.
I tried it when we did the pudding.
Okay.
The Pawpaw
That
pudding.
first time that we did the pudding, that fella brought in like 40 Pawpaws.
Get a giant basket.
And we took like 20 of them home.
Wow.
And the kids and I ate them and we made other things out of them.
Did you get conjunctivitis from it?
Nope, not a single case of it.
I remember that, and just like I would have to walk into the store and they'd be sitting on the counter. I'm like, oh, those are starting to not smell good.
Well, it's hard to eat 40 Pawpaws unless you're, Lewis and Clark, and you have to.
Right. If you don't have anything else to eat, it's like, okay, I'll eat another one.
Well, one thing too, like, just to kind of wrap this topic up, I don't think, at least I haven't had a lot of time to like do like a sit back and kind of like reflect.
Yeah.
Because how many videos do we have now? 800 and
whatever.
And I've
count?
had my hand in probably 95% of them.
Yeah.
And it's been nonstop. Like just cut. So it's kind of like there's stuff that I don't really remember. Like, oh yeah, that recipe. Oh yeah, that, or that video that we did. And I don't even remember cutting it. So it's kind of hard to go, which one did I least like the most? Because I probably don't remember it.
And quite frankly, if we didn't like doing them, If I didn't like doing them, I wouldn't do them.
Right.
My favorite is still raising a logmore. Just because of my personal experience, I think. That was a week-long camp.
Yeah.
With people that became friends.
Yeah.
It was my first time just like really going with the camera. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the videos that came out of it.
Yeah.
What you got, Kyle?
Let's do some donations, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that real quick. They're kind of piling up. And thanks, everyone who's donated. Okay, Logan C., thank you. Says, hey, gents, I asked a Patreon question, but I have a merch question. Will you have more Townsend shirts in 3XL sizes soon? I need some for my grandmother who loves the channel as well. Thank you. We'll go through all these.
Yeah. I'll write it down.
Max are cool. Thank you. I, too, enjoy gin. Did 17th century North America have access to gin? Was it piney tasting like we think of it today? That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Julie Stevens always has a really nice donation. Thank you. I would be interested in learning more about how furs, leather, and buckskin were made in the 18th century. This one says, are there any recipes that are unique to the Mormons and early westward settlers? Chris Nutmeg, thank you. Has the nutmeg industry ever thanked you for promoting their product? Not that I know of. Thanks, everyone.
T-shirts, did you want to touch on that?
It was probably on me. It depends on what shirt that you're talking about. We've printed a few. Some of them we're not printing again. Some of them we plan to print again. And we have new ones that we anticipate printing. So, yes, there will be 3X shirts. I don't know if it's going to be the particular one that you want, but if you want to email customer service, they'll get it to me, and I will talk to you more about that.
There we go. Gin, common, 18th century. I don't know about North America, but it's certainly there was a big problem.
It's a fun study.
Yeah, with gin in the Great Britain in the all the way from the very early 18th century into like 1750 or through. So it got to be so inexpensive, so common. They had to, try law after law to help regulate it because it was becoming a real societal problem. It was so inexpensive. People would just drown their, problems, and it was bad. It was very bad.
As far as the pine taste, I mean, it was still made from juniper berries, but the thing is that they were just like cooking it up like crazy and in terrible standards. So I would guess that it had more of an alcohol. You probably had a wider spectrum. It's like, oh, this is really just alcohol right at the front, and then some that were nice and smooth, just depending on.
Well, and that flavoring helped you cover up a real low quality,
That's true.
real cheap alcohol. So, processing of leathers and furs and leather processing in the 18th century is. It's basically, we've gotten a lot more. I won't answer it that way. It's an incredible process, that pre-industrial method of tanning. So incredibly interesting. Stinky, but incredibly interesting to cover. And what was?
No, do you remember when Keith tried to Tom Sawyer me into skinning those otters?
No, you want to do it? We'll only charge you $5. Oh, lucky me. So that would take a lot to cover. I'd love to find the right expert on that to bring them forward, because for me to learn all that.
Are the Buck Skinner series of books the right ones to go to? I know they're not in print anymore, but I know they're still on eBay and stuff.
I can't not answer that. There's so much material out there on that, and so many different things to cover. So I don't know how I would answer that, but I'll see what I can do. Whoops, I didn't do that. And specific foods to Mormons and people moving westward in that time period, early 19th century. Specific foods, I don't know, because that's a little bit out of our time frame. And so I don't have any good answers for you, because I don't don't live there in my research. There's so much for me to cover as it is that I don't have a lot of that at the top of my head to answer. While we're here, let me cover the new Patreon folks for this week. Alice Rego, Jared Anderson, Imran Sheik, Margaret Van Meer, and Charles. No, I got him last week. That's the new folks from Patreon this week. Some people help support the channel by going over to Patreon. There's a link in the description section, and they support us a small amount of money each month. Kind of bills, just once a month. A really great way to help support us, and I try to interact with those. I'm trying to learn how to do that more and more. Do you have another Patreon question or two that you can go to?
All right, this one's from Noelani.
Or she just says Noe. Is short. Noe.
Look forward to the live stream. How goes the cabin? Dare we hope for 8 feet? Mm-hmm. There seems to be a lot of space between the logs. For the chinking, was it common to fill it with rocks and other random stuff, then with cement-like substance like glue to place it in?
Yeah. Right. So it's going like we talked earlier. It's it's starting to get there at 6 feet, 6.5. We're getting closer. I think we just need one more, and then we stop and we start moving. One more row of logs, and then we start moving into the roof. We'll see how that works.
Yeah. The spacing between the logs, about the 4 feet mark, got a lot. There's a lot less space there.
We were really battling the job that first 3 feet or so. We had some big logs to work with. And a lot of difficulty, and of course our skill set wasn't as good down there.
Well,
it was hot.
Right.
Yeah, it was hot.
First few days.
We hadn't figured out our process yet.
Right.
Yes, but also when you're moving, we were drastically in that first bit moving sizes of logs, right?
From
and
big
so
logs to smaller.
That makes it difficult to get it to set down where you want it to, because
so we battled that for a while, learning as we went, and there are some larger gaps down at the bottom. I don't think they're going to be a problem. Yes, they certainly filled that gap with either log little pieces that they would hew off of the logs. They might even take a log that's smaller in diameter and quarter it down into sort of pie pieces that they would put in there. They would chink it sometimes with mud sand mix that would be for places that aren't close to any kind of civilization. If they had access to lime, then they could make a lime mortar mix or lime with sand, and that would be a much harder sort of waterproof mix that they would chink in there. There's a lot of different techniques to achieve the same thing of blocking up those slots within there. And there's some really interesting log structures you can see where they sort of filled in with like bricks or whatever they had to jam in those slots to block the wind. So, and we'll be experimenting with that pretty soon.
This question's from Nick T. Hi, John. Have you ever been to Hart Square Village in North Carolina? It is a huge collection of original log cabins that were purchased and moved by an enthusiast and located all in one place. It's in Vail, North Carolina, just south of Hickory. Well worth a visit.
Did we run onto that while we were doing research or not? I don't know.
I don't recall.
I thought there was someplace down there that we were researching, but I thank you for the reference there. We will look that one up.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't familiar with that one.
We've had North Carolina. We've had people from North Carolina say, "Hey, check out the cabins in our state and in Tennessee." Lots of that, but I don't think that I've heard that particular place.
Yeah.
This one says, was it common for travelers to stay in poor houses? I saw that Nicholas Cresswell did this in his journal, and I found it interesting.
When they say in poor houses or just a poor family's house?
It says poor houses. So,
I'll take it as in a poor person's house. Because I don't think I remember seeing anything that was different than that. Anyway, Charles Woodmason talks about stopping in some rather modest housing situations. I don't think it would be a rare situation where people would stop at a very, very modest household to stay when there was just no place else to stay. There was no other choice. You might even be told, well, you can go sleep in the barn if you'd like, or, continue on down the road. And you would sleep in the barn because your choice was, stumbling in the dark in a downpour or sleeping in the barn. Hey, I'll take that barn any day.
Did they have grocery stores, or did they just buy crops from each other?
They had grocery-like stores, I guess. Certainly, as we were talking about the money thing earlier, having an account where they would have these sort of store, for lack of a better word, where people would sell their items to that, and then other people would buy them. They would also get things shipped to them. There was another question. I think there was a Patreon question about something about mail order and getting things shipped to stores.
Yes, this one from BVD. Mm-hmm. You touched on letter correspondence in one of the writing episodes and have touched once or twice on packages between individuals. But how were commercial goods shipped and delivered in the period? I know mail order was in the future, but how were commercial goods shipped to retail establishments?
Not as much in the future as you kind of might think, especially with the people that are growing tobacco in the 18th century. They would talk to their agents that are over where they would okay, I'm shipping 50 hogshead of tobacco on board this ship. And they would have their agents sell that and say, oh, from the proceeds, send me 4 pair of shoes. And so they would have their agents in Great Britain send things back to them. And many times this worked out very poorly, that the items that were shipped to them, cost more than the goods that they sold. And so they would get more and more in arrears and owe these agents more and more. That was a great problem in the 18th century, people kind of living beyond their means, because they would ask for these things not knowing exactly how much the items that they were shipping would actually be sold for. And the agents would take advantage of that and probably charge them twice as much as what it cost. I'm sure that never happened. Sorry, I won't say bad things about those agents.
We know it wouldn't happen now.
Nope. Nothing like that could happen today. So that sort of thing is happening. But in talking about stores and getting goods, so a ship owner or people that are involved with the ship might sort of on speculation say, well, I'm gonna pack up 4 crates of china or 4 crates of pewterware and put it on board the ship. And when it gets there, I will find a home for it. Some seller in that town, some store in that town will purchase my 4 crates of goods and sell them off. And so that sort of thing happens all the time. Or else the store owner, again, has agents in another country. Oh, ship me 4 crates of, brassware. I will sell them when they get here.
Hey, real quick, let's talk about what's to the right of you and how we can't possibly get there. No YouTube channel can without wonderful people sharing our videos.
There it is. And compared to the 100,000 plaque, YouTube just they made it happen just like that this time. That's the reason why I made that one. I figured it'd be 3 months before we saw this thing, and here it is. So it's incredible that we were able to make this happen, but we didn't really make it happen. You guys made it happen. Yep. You're watching the videos, you're sharing, you're talking about the videos. I don't know how many comments we get, I was sharing your videos with my grandmother or, whatever. And
that 12-year-old boy that wrote you said he watches them with his grandmother.
Right. So lots and lots of comments. It's you guys sharing the videos. You find them so entertaining. You want to share that with somebody else. Thank you for doing that. That's how we get to a million subscriptions.
Still crazy to think about.
Very, very crazy to think about. So, this is all about the stuff that you guys do for us. I mean, obviously, we could make videos all day long, but unless somebody watches them and gives us the feedback to tell us how to make them better, or I like this kind, I don't like that kind. We can't make the channel better. You guys make that happen. So
yeah. And if the person who shared fried chicken on Reddit is out there,
triple
thank you,
triple thank you.
Yeah, but seriously, the videos, the share numbers on social media are incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
It's pretty cool that many people are into something. 'Cause I still think our channel is kind of niche. Like it's
weird. Niche in a weird way,
Yeah.
and we still don't find. All kinds of people interact with us, and they'll say, "Oh, I watch your videos to go to sleep at night,"
Yeah.
or Ryan was just talking about he does music things and the crossover with people that listen to his music and watch our channel
It's nuts,
that don't know that there's any connection whatsoever. It's always funny to see how those things line up and connect up.
Yeah, it's been and we appreciate all the positive comments, and it keeps us going for sure.
Yes. Yeah,
sure.
I feel like we see you when you share those things. We can't always comment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it going on, but we do see it, and we really appreciate it.
Right. And really, I want to stop just for a second and talk about comments too. Doing the things that we do here, you're going out on a limb every time you make a video. It's like, is this embarrassing? Is this the right thing for me to do? Do I talk about this thing? Do I talk about that thing? And it's very hard to keep doing it. It's very easy to say, this isn't working, or I don't feel comfortable with this, because a lot of people, me included, I'm not terribly comfortable with, putting a lot of myself out there. Nobody wants to have people ridiculing you or whatever. And so making content for the channel isn't easy. What makes it possible is the comments that come through to make it a positive experience. Yeah. And truly, I couldn't have kept doing it without those comments. It's very easy to shut that part of your brain down, the creative part of you down with negative comments. Doesn't take very many to say, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do that again. So it's the positive comments that come through from you guys that make it continue to happen.
I think my favorite part about the comment section too is that the folks that comment, they take ownership of that section.
Yeah.
And like when newcomers come along and they don't really get it and they're kind of making fun, they put a stop to it and hey, that's not what we're about here. Right. And I really appreciate that you guys
super helpful.
Take part of it with us. It's really cool.
Yeah. I'm super thankful for sure. I have 2 real quick donations, and then I guess it's not quite that time.
Is it not lightning round yet?
Not yet.
I don't think
I can hear it outside.
Lightning round stuff, Kyle?
I do have lightning round stuff.
Okay.
We have plenty of other
cloudy out here. I thought it was nice.
Plenty of other questions to do that.
We'll just turn Kyle loose after these couple donations.
Okay, that's fine. This is Jim Lindley. Can you make pop bread like banana bread? Ooh. And then this is from George. Just says hi.
Hey George.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll bet paw bread. Did he say like what?
Like banana.
Like banana bread.
But if you think of it like banana or like pumpkin bread, either one.
That's exactly where I was going to go. So in the time period, you do not see banana bread, obviously, because they didn't have bananas. Right. Well, at least not. Obviously, they had bananas someplace. But you don't have bananas coming into North America until, I think, the 19th century. But pumpkin bread, you certainly do see multiple references where they make a bread with pumpkins, and it makes a very, very rich, moist bread. Multiple references to that. Very interesting recipes. And you definitely, I'll bet, could use that same thing with pawpaws. Probably make a much like a banana bread sort of product.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find a period recipe for pawpaw bread.
No, you're not going to see that. But you don't see any.
But you could certainly do it.
Yes,
and it would be great.
Yes.
Going back to the poorhouse question.
Yeah.
They found the entry.
Oh.
It's December 3rd, 1774 on page 48. It says, got to Whittington's mill, lodged at a poorhouse. The land is exceedingly fine.
It was one word.
Poorhouse.
Yes. What is?
It just says at a poorhouse, and poorhouse is capitalized. So
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to do some research on if there was one at that location. I don't know much about that. I obviously haven't read that book enough.
That's the size of whatever city that is. Will probably
that's surprising, though, John.
clue us in some too.
I
Anybody's ever seen John's
I have
copy
multiple
of that book.
copies in my house, and they have multiple tags in them. So
And you can't have a single conversation with John without him saying, "Yeah, like in Nicholas Cresswell."
Yeah.
He
yeah, well, you
really
know what? He
knows
liked
about
nutmeg too.
And potatoes.
So there.
He liked the steel potatoes.
Hey, I got a ton of questions to ask.
Let's go.
Let's do
All
it.
right. What were the best way to sharpen knives, saws, and axes in the wilderness and early settlement areas?
Well, they took along little slickens or little stones for sharpening. When you're sharpening saws, and that's a lot more difficult. And I mean, you see multiple references to situations where people did not have all that much knowledge of how to sharpen their tools by themselves. And if they're in a civilized location, they will likely find a knife grinder or someone, the blacksmith, who's going to sharpen those tools for them because they don't have the right proper tools to do it. But when you're in a wilderness situation, you don't have that option. You either learn how to sharpen it yourself or you live with dull tools, and no one wants to live with dull tools.
But can I? Now you can correct me, but I'm guessing that they would try their best to keep them strapped so they didn't have to go to the sharpening phase. Is that?
Well, yeah, depending on what
Like
their
if you
skill
strap
set
your
was,
tool
right?
enough,
Right.
then you can keep an edge on it for quite a while.
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
You try strapping that saw, buddy.
Well, no, I'm not talking about saws. I'm talking about their knives and
thanks.
maybe their axe heads.
yeah.
What would most people be using cider vinegar for? Thinking it would be common to turn leftover cider into vinegar.
Yeah, it kind of does it on its own if you're not careful, right? So you're going to use... They used vinegar for all sorts of things in the 18th century. I mean, it has a multitude of household uses, and I don't even know how to go into it. It'd probably make a great video of the 14 uses for vinegar in the 18th century household. I'll work on. Oh, right there.
It's a cleaning agent.
That would be kind of cool.
You can clean with it. It's medicinal.
Everything.
Everything's medicinal.
Yeah,
in the 18th century anyways.
They used it for food a lot more than what I want to use it for.
What were most weddings like in the 18th century? What were typical foods that were served? Served.
I think most weddings are in the 18th century are much more informal, simple. The idea of a big wedding is a 19th or even more like a 21st century sort of thing. They didn't have the same kind of gigantic wedding things that we certainly do today. It was, hey, let's get this couple married. Off they go.
What breeds of livestock were most common?
Ooh, I'm not a livestock expert. There's some really interesting breed things going on. The folks at Conner Prairie are great at some of those breed things. And there's a couple of different historic sites that really specialize in rare breeds. Even Genesee Country Village had some rare breed things going on. Don't have any answer beside that. Are we in lightning round yet? Am I supposed to be giving shorter answers?
This is the yes or no question.
Yeah, so
We'll ask two more big questions,
okay.
and then we'll do
Two more
lightning
big.
round.
Good.
Okay.
Phew. I thought I
All
was
right.
messing up.
How common was home brewed wine or ale, or did they depend on the village brewmaster?
I'm kind of a 50-50 thing. I think there was a lot more home brewing situations. It was much more common than it might be today, at least on average. Obviously, there's a great wealth of of people home brewing today and making wines at home today. But I think if you put it as a percentage of the population, the percentage is much smaller today, even though it's a very popular thing to do than it was as more popular on average in the 18th century than it would be today. But of course, there was a lot of brewing and spirit making, distilling that was going on in a very commercial manner in the 18th century too.
All right. How available was cheese in the 18th century, and was it expensive?
Cheese is one of those great things that just about anybody can make. If you've got cows, you've got lots of milk, you're going to be making cheese because it is the way that you can sort of save that milk for later uses. I mean, it's like milk goes bad pretty darn quick. If you're not making cheese, you might be losing out. You don't have a way to store that, or you might not have a way to use that milk in the future when your cows are dry and you have that cheese that you can fall back on that you've made in times when there was plenty of milk.
2 quick donations.
Yes.
Then we'll do lightning round. So get ready, John.
Get ready.
Get ready. John McDonald, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Congratulations, guys. I found you one late night making some old school food.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Great videos I can share with my family without a parental guidance warning. Keep on making content. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Keltoid5, thank you. Just
Yes.
wanted to say the last 2 videos looked really great. Cheers.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Keltoid 5 warms my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Always here.
before we get to the lightning round, I only have this one here that's totally mangled. But next week, we hope to have sort of a fundraising auction for the cabin project. It's getting a little bit more expensive than I thought it was going to be, so we're going to need to do this. We're gonna have some of the tools that we've used in the not ones that are totally busted,
Not ones that I've broken apart.
but used tools, mostly mallets and such whatnot. That'll be available for people to purchase, bid on, or something like that. We're still kind of working on the guts of how that's going to work out, but it's going to be really great. That'll be the next live stream. So next Friday, be prepared.
You can put a mallet on your mantle.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? We'll sign it and stuff like that. It'll be great. It'll be great. Lightning round.
Yes. Thunder will be a part of that, won't we?
Yes.
Hey, now.
Hey, no.
We'll sell off
Can't
anything.
give my Whammer away.
Yeah, that's right. I'll make you another one.
Here we go, lightning round. Were duck eggs Were duck eggs sought after?
Yes.
Thank you. How many logs used so far in the new build?
Ooh, it's 7 high, 8 high, times 4,
Somewhere
30-ish.
between 25 and 30 so far, right?
30-ish.
A lot. Okay. Have you sunk the canoe for the winter yet, or is it still afloat?
It's halfway. That's a bad way to answer that, but it's still available. It's not sunk all the way down. We still want to do some canoe stuff this year.
And we want to make sure we can find it.
Yeah, we don't want it to disappear.
Would storing in cellars or attics be more common? So
Yes.
Cellars or attics?
Oh, yes. So, mostly in cellars, unless it's something like a pseudo-smoked thing, which you would hang up in your kitchen, and it would kind of get re-smoked continually because your chimney didn't draw very well.
Were there signs outside of shops back then?
Yeah. So their signs were mostly signs that would be an item. So a big boot or, a sign with, and they would have, they would say, buy your stationery at the sign of the Black Swan, right? And they would have a sign with the Black Swan on it, and it might say something stationary.
It probably looks something like this.
Yeah. Get your drinks at the Nutmeg Tavern at the sign of the Boar's Head, with the nutmeg in his mouth.
What kind of crops did the colonists grow the most, corn or wheat?
Depends on where you're at, but especially New England, corn is the main staple because it's harder to grow wheat in that. The mid colonies, wheat was probably more common.
Did people actually bury their relatives on their own property?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not?
Why not?
Are there many naturalist reenactors?
Not too many. Have you seen anybody doing a naturalist wandering around looking at plants and writing in a journal?
It, but I don't think it's very.
Sounds like fun.
And my last one, will you guys be at Mississinawa 1812?
Yes.
Yes, we will.
We will.
And we're excited about it.
We'll be having fun. Maggie will be there, right?
Yeah, Maggie sure will.
Rick and Hillary will be there.
All my kids will be running around.
Even that one that has the long hair.
If you, yeah, right.
Ghost.
If you see a super blonde child, you follow him, and you'll find Townsend's eventually.
Hey, real quick, someone asked if Ryan had broken another mall. I was out there today doing video. There is a mall graveyard, just scattered.
Now, to be fair,
It's not just Ryan.
No, it's everyone.
I don't know that anybody else has annihilated one, but the new ones are harder to break. I will say that, and I have not broken one to where you can't use it anymore.
Right.
Just shards of wood
They're
flying off.
flying.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
sure.
Yeah, I know I've boogered up a lot of them, so.
Yeah. Listen,
If you can't say it on live stream,
you
say
can't
it.
tell somebody, "Hey, come over here and hit this hard."
I say tap, tap, tap. He's bam!
Yeah, I do have video evidence.
Right.
That is a tap.
Yeah.
Yeah, with thunder, that is a tap.
Thunder.
100-pound mall. Wham! It's been a day. It's been a day.
It's been a good
and
day.
You've come into the Nutmeg Tavern. You've joined us. I hope you've had a wonderful time here at the tavern. It's time to turn you out. It's time to shut the door,
Get out.
close it, sweep you out the door. No. I want to thank you guys for interacting with us, having fun with us here on the Nutmeg Tavern. It is always a joy to come into the room and work with these guys. It's always a joy to have you guys out there interacting with us, helping us out. You're helping us out with Super Chat or Patreon or whatever it is. You guys help make this channel happen. Those positive comments that help the videos keep happening, they're because of you. Thank you. This, obviously, I can't do that without you guys. So again, thank you for everything you do. Thanks for watching.